A loss tonight means the Blue Jackets' playoffs hopes are officially over. Can they beat a red-hot Buffalo team? We find out on today's Locked on Blue Jackets.
You're Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. Now, let's talk a little bit about tonight's game, because it's a big one. It's a must-win. Blue Jackets are basically out, but not like, it's a real, so you're saying there's a chance. If the Blue Jackets win tonight, they stay alive. If they lose, they're out, because a loss tonight means that they can't overtake the Canadiens in points. If they win, then they get to stay alive until tomorrow, when the Canadiens face the Ottawa Senators. One more regulation win for the Canadiens seals it for them. So all we have to do is we have to win every single game, and the Habs have to lose every single game in regulation. So, stranger things have happened, right? I will say that in terms of we'll do a quick scout of other teams. Still in the hunt next to the Blue Jackets, the Rangers, the Islanders, the Red Wings are all sitting on, I believe, the same number of points. So I believe a regulation loss tonight for most of them is kind of game over. The Red Wings, I believe, are playing the Panthers, and then the Islanders and the Rangers are playing each other, which is the problem. So the Blue Jackets need to win tonight to stay in the race. I believe if any other team loses, so if the Red Wings lose, and whoever of the Islanders and the Rangers lose, if they lose in regulation, they're all out, I believe. Wins tonight keeps the dream alive, but they have to. The Canadiens have to lose every single game, or I think they could win one game in not regulation, and the Blue Jackets can win every single game, and that, again, is it likely? No. But Blue Jackets have a game tonight. So for right now, their destiny is in their own hands up until the final buzzer. Just win this game and then go to the scoreboard. Blue Jackets are facing the Buffalo Sabres. They are 1-1 against the Sabres so far this season. They beat them 6-4 back in October, and then they lost 3-2 at the beginning of February. That game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was the first game after the Stars game, where Marchenko got his broken jaw and Dante Fabro got injured as well. And so those two guys weren't in, and neither was Zach Werenski. That's the only game that he's missed this season. So I am unsurprised that the Blue Jackets struggled in that game with, almost all of their offense on the shelf. But we'll see how it goes tonight. The Sabres are on a bit of a hot streak right now. They've won 8 of their last 9 games. They're on a 5-game win streak right now. They're playing that kind of hockey that the Blue Jackets used to play, between, I want to say, 2015 and 2018, when they didn't make the playoffs, but they made damn sure that no one else was going to have a good time making the playoffs, right? I feel like those were the times where they would, go on incredible hot. They would get mathematically eliminated, and then they would go on this insane hot streak and win 12 of their last 14 games and really, really annoy everyone that's trying to make the playoffs around them for ruining their hard work. But that seems like what the Sabres are doing right now. They've got wins against Carolina, Tampa Bay, Ottawa, Washington, Ottawa twice, actually, and Winnipeg in their last 9 games. They've also got wins against Boston and Pittsburgh, but that's slightly less impressive, let's say. They lost to Philadelphia and Minnesota. So, they're on a hot streak right now. Nothing to play for. They might as well have some fun. Tage Thompson has 44 goals on the season, which is insane because I feel like he was having a down year and then suddenly like flipped it around. But the Blue Jackets can win this game. If they play the way that they played against Ottawa, they'll have no problem, right? Correction. If they play the way they played against Ottawa on Tuesday, they'll have no problem. If they play the way that they did at the weekend, then many problems, right? The good news is the Sabres special teams are worse or just as bad as the Blue Jackets. They're 26th on the power play and 23rd on the penalty kill. Blue Jackets 22nd on the power play and 25th on the penalty kill. They're both terrible at face-offs. The Sabres score slightly more goals, but the Blue Jackets allow slightly fewer. So we'll see how it goes. This might be a big game. In terms of like, it might be another one of those like 8-6, 6-5, like massive final scores, which will be fine and not stressful at all, I am sure. But in terms of who to pay attention to for the Blue Jackets, obviously, Tage Thompson, who's got 8 goals in his last 5 games. Alex Tuch has 9 points in his last 5 games, including 5 goals. Like, those guys are always the guys to pay attention to. JJ Peterka, who is a very young player who's done very well for this team, has 62 points in 72 games. He's a guy to watch as well. And Zach Benson, who has kind of had a sophomore slump this year. I believe this is his second season. Yeah, like he got 30 points in 71 games for the Sabres last season, has 27 in 70 so far this season. So not really a sophomore slump in as much as he just didn't grow as much, but I'm a big fan of Zach Benson. Now that I've talked about him, he's absolutely going to score a goal tonight, and it's probably going to be a back-breaking one, but those are the guys to pay attention to. Rasmus Dahlin on the back end, obviously. He's got 62 points in 68 games. Owen Power, who seems to have fallen from grace, and who we might talk about a little bit in tomorrow's episode, actually, because we're going to do Would You Rather Forward Edition today, and then tomorrow we'll do Would You Rather Defenseman Edition. So I'm sure Owen Power will come up, because apparently the Sabres are trying to move on from him, which is very funny. But anyway, the Sabres have a lot of good players. And again, like, it makes no sense. And I am guilty of this as well. And I feel like basically every year since, maybe since they drafted Jack Eichel back in 2015, I've been like, man, maybe next year the Sabres will be good, right? They do all of the right things every summer. They draft well. They bring in good players in free agency, typically. And every year they start strong, it feels like, and then fall apart. And they're going to finish, at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, at the bottom of the Atlantic Division, near the bottom of the league. They'll be drafting in the top 10 again this year. So the Sabres make no sense to me, and I don't try to understand them. But this is it's a big game for the Blue Jackets. Buffalo has nothing to play for. The Blue Jackets have everything to play for. I don't know which way that's going to go yet. Blue Jackets have mostly played playoff teams basically since the outdoor game. I feel like they've played probably 3/4 of their games against playoff teams. So playing against a non-playoff team, I can't decide how it's going to go. It might go like it did against Nashville, or it might be a complete disaster. And again, there's really no way to know. Sounds like they're going to roll the exact same lineup that they rolled on Tuesday against the Senators. Elvis in goal again, which I'm fine with in theory. Like, knock on wood, that'll probably come back to bite me. But Elvis was great in both games against the Senators this weekend. I believe he was in goal against Buffalo, which I can probably find that out. I have the technology. So he wasn't great in the 3-2 loss. 3 goals on 21 shots for an .857 save percentage. And then I want to say that Tarasov was in goal for the first game of the season, which again, I might I might be making stuff up, but yeah, Tarasov. 4 goals on 24 shots. So the Blue Jackets' goaltending has not been sparkling against the Sabres this season. James Reimer was very good for the Sabres when the Blue Jackets played them in February. I believe they faced Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in that first game against the Sabres. They faced Devin Levi, who is someone else we're going to talk about later this week, actually. But 6 goals on 25 shots. They won't be facing Devin Levi. I suspect they'll probably be facing Luukkonen, although they might face Reimer. Again, Reimer was quite good for them in that win back in February. So I really don't know which way it's going to go. My guess is Luukkonen. He's the starter. Reimer has had better results this year. Who's to say? I don't believe the Sabres played last night. Again, been wrong before, will be wrong again. I believe their last game was their last game was April 8th, which was a 3-0 win over the Carolina Hurricanes, which is a pretty good result for anyone, if you ask me. And in that game, it was James Reimer was in net for that, I believe. So yeah, so my guess is it'll be Luukkonen. I can't with 100% certainty say it. And again, every time I'm like, oh, it's probably going to be this guy, then they inevitably start the other guy. But my guess is it'll be Luukkonen. Sabres didn't play last night, and I don't believe they play tomorrow night. No. So we'll see. Let's take a quick break. And then I want to talk a little bit about the Blue Jackets and how they can continue the strong play that they started on Tuesday. So we'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets.
Do you have trouble sleeping? If so, you're not alone. That used to be me, lacking rest, tossing and turning. I was late for meetings. I never felt like myself. That's until I found Bare Mattress. Bare Mattress and their sleep recovery technology helped me fall asleep faster as well as enjoy deeper sleeps. I felt like myself again, and you can too. Bare Mattress knows that every sleeper is different. That's why they have their sleep quiz on their website that finds you your perfect match. As a side sleeper, I matched with the Elite Hybrid Mattress, and I've been telling everyone in my life they have to try Bare Mattress risk-free. You can sleep on your Bare Mattress up to 120 nights, and if you're not getting the best sleep of your life, you can get it refunded. They'll pick it up with absolutely no hassle. So go to bearmattress.com and use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's talk about the Blue Jackets. That's what we're here for, right? Literally, as that ad was running, I opened Twitter for a second and saw that there was going to be a lineup change tonight. After I just talked about how they're going to run the same lineup, which I guess we'll figure that out. But Dean Everson said there will be a change tonight to the lineup. He didn't want to disclose it. He said maybe on Moslikin starting. He was first goalie off for what it's worth. That's from Mark Scheig. So, do they play Tarasov tonight? I can't imagine they do. If there's a lineup change, my guess is it's something with the bottom six. Probably the fourth line. I don't know who comes out, who goes in. Like, I can't imagine it's going to be a major lineup change unless someone's injured, which, again, knock on wood. Or it's going to be, like, I can't imagine it's a significant one because they rolled the same line rushes, I believe, in morning skate. Same lines and pairs as the win on Tuesday night over Ottawa. So maybe it is going to be Tarasov starting tonight. I can't imagine that they would make a lineup change and then not drill that new line in morning skate. So who's to say? But with that kind of knowledge, obviously there's no point me speculating on, oh, this could change. We're going to have to go with, okay, these are the lines and pairings that they had. So we're going to assume that it's a goaltending change. So it's going to be Tarasov, who was not great against the Sabres the first time around back in October. Had a bit of I was going to say a nightmare start against the Senators. I don't put that on him. I put that mostly on the fact that no one on the Blue Jackets seemed ready to start that game, and Erica Branson had just two complete brain farts right in the middle of the net. I'm not putting that Sunday game against the Senators on Tarasov at all. So maybe they're giving him another chance. We'll see. Again, at this point, why not, right? Elvis is clearly tired. He's not the most durable goalie in the world. Which again, it becomes even more frustrating that you have one goalie that gets tired easily and one goalie that plays better the more they play. And they're like, let's play the tired goalie more and the goalie that gets rusty less. But that's a whole other thing. Blue Jackets have figured out how to score goals again. Knock on wood. 5 goals on Tuesday against the Senators. Sean Monahan has 4 goals in his last 5 games, which, considering that they were shut out for 2 of those games, means that actually I think he had a goal last night. He had 2 goals against the Avalanche, I believe, and then a goal against the Preds, or flip that, had 2 goals against the Predators and 1 goal against the Avalanche. I don't necessarily remember which way around that went. But Monahan, he's back, looking just as good as he did pre-injury. 50 points in 49 games this season. Like, you can't really complain about that, right? Kent Johnson, again, after going cold for a little bit there, seems to have heated back up. In his last 5 games, he's got 6 assists, I believe, including, again, it always looks bad when you open, the player page, and you look at their last 5 games, and you're like, oh man, they didn't do anything in the last 2 games because they were shut out. No one did anything in the last 2 games, or the last, obviously not the last game, but the last 2 games before the last game. It's fine. I know how words mean. But he'd gone a little bit cold before that. No points in 3 games before that. A goal against Pittsburgh, and then no points 4 games before that. So only 1 point in his last 8 games, and then 6 in his last 5. Looks like he's heating up again. Had 3 assists versus Nashville, 1 versus Colorado, 2 versus Ottawa. Would love to see a couple more goals from him, maybe, but it's really hard to be upset with the season that Kent Johnson's having, especially after Pascal Vincent did his absolute best to destroy this kid's confidence last season. Feels like he's looking good. He's looking fresh. Like, he's currently 3rd on the team in scoring. Is at 52 points. The only players better than him, Marchenko and Werenski, who are both in the 70s. So got no issues with Kent Johnson. Hopefully he keeps it going. I like that JVR Fantilli Johnson line a lot. I think it's a lot of fun. It clearly works. It was by far the best line analytically for the Blue Jackets against the Senators on Tuesday. So we'll see if they can keep it going. See if they can get Adam Fantilli another goal. I don't think 30 goals is likely for Fantilli, but he is currently 2nd on the team in goals. Marchenko with 31, Fantilli with 25. Also of note, Sean Monahan and Mathieu Olivier both have 18 goals on the season. So with 5 games left, the Blue Jackets do have a chance to have 7 20-goal scorers on their roster, which is fun. And I genuinely couldn't tell you the last time that happened. But like I said, a lot of fun. No one else is close, really. There was a minute there where I thought Van Riemsdyk could do that. He has 14 goals on the season, which is more than I expected from him at this point. But he, again, has kind of fallen out of favor. Although now he's back in the top 6, so maybe 6 goals in the next 5 games for JVR. Why not? Let's get crazy with it. But the Blue Jackets have to play like they did, and like this is kind of what I've gone back to over and over, is the Blue Jackets have to play like they did on Tuesday against the Senators. They have to play like this game is going to be their last game of the season. And sometimes desperation hurts a team, and sometimes it helps a team. And I don't know how to quantify the difference between those two things, right? Because there's trying really, really hard and like willing your way into the playoffs. And then there's trying too hard and falling apart because you're, gripping the stick too tight or whatever. And I don't know how you get one and not the other, because it's one of those weird, like, I hate intangibles, but it is one of those weird intangibles of like, there is such a thing as trying too hard, but I don't know at what point you go from trying really, really hard to trying too hard, right? So just play like it's the last game of the season, play like you get into the playoffs. If you win this game, obviously that's not the case. There's a lot more work to be done, but it can start with a win tonight. Let's go ahead and predict let's say a 3-1 win for the Blue Jackets. And I'm going to go with the hot hand. I'm going to say let's get another Sean Monahan goal in here. If they can do it on the power play, even better. But I will take a regular Sean Monahan goal in a 3-1 Blue Jackets win. Probably an empty net goal in there because it's been a minute since the Blue Jackets have had an empty net opportunity. But I feel like it's coming tonight. Just win. It's all you got to do, right? Just win the game. Focus on, worry about the Canadians tomorrow. Win tonight's game. Let's take another quick break. And then when we get back, I did a couple of polls yesterday in various places. So we're going to look at the results for that of Blue Jackets have $1 squillion in cap space. Is there a forward that they should go after? Which forward would you rather they went after? So we're going to talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about wonderful pistachios. You're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. They're one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller for longer. I love that they do a no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack. I am a gremlin who likes to eat them 14 at a time. But if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snackin and get crackin with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's pull up the results of the poll I did yesterday. So I went on Twitter and I also went on the community page here on YouTube to ask, let's play a game of Would You Rather. Which forward would you rather Don Waddell went after this summer? And I said Mitch Marner or Brock Boeser or a third option on both. Now, I've got a handful of people being like, they should get a defenseman, which is not the question that I asked. And we are going to go, we're going to do a Would You Rather defenseman edition. We're going to do a Would You Rather goaltending edition. We're talking about forwards right now. Reading is easy, guys, I promise. Mitch Marner won pretty handily in both situations. He got 67% of the vote on Twitter, and then he got where is it? He got 56% of the vote on YouTube. Brock Boeser, 31% of the vote on YouTube and 22% of the vote on Twitter. In terms of a third option, which there wasn't a ton of third options that came in, but someone said, D. Wincoop on Twitter says, obviously Marner with Boeser at a distant second. Then honestly, if none of those work, I wouldn't hate a reunion with Duchesne if he wants to come back. And then someone else, Fenrir Varga, said Sam Bennett would be interesting. So we'll take a look at these guys. Duchesne, I think, is obviously like the last option. He's getting up there in age. I don't think he wants to come to Columbus. I think he's having a lot of fun in Dallas. My guess is he probably stays there. And again, I feel like the kind of contract he's looking for is probably one that Don Waddell doesn't want to sign. So we're down to, do you go get Sam Bennett, who's probably the most likely player to leave their current team? Do you go after Brock Boeser, or do you go after Mitch Marner, who's going to be the most expensive, but is also absolutely the best player of those three, right? I've got a couple of interesting comments about this. Someone said that Boeser fits the Blue Jackets system perfectly, which I don't disagree with. A lot of people said Marner's obviously the most talented. He's defensively responsible, but he's also going to cost you $1 bajillion. You pay for quality, right? Like, Mitch Marner is probably, if he comes here, knock on wood, he's going to become the highest paid player on the team pretty easily. I believe Zach Werenski is the current highest paid player on the team at 9.5-ish. Actually, the second highest paid player on the team is Damon Severson, which is wild. But Mitch Marner coming here is probably gonna command, it's free agency, right? So you add another $1 million on top of what he's probably actually worth. Like, he's probably gonna get 12 or 13 million, maybe more, for the next, and if you can get an extra year by trading for his rights, you can maybe knock $1 million off there. But if you get him for 7 years, it's probably gonna, go up to 13 or 14 million a year for the next 7 years, which I don't hate. Mitch Marner is a game-changing player. He gets a lot of stick for disappearing during the playoffs and not being physical enough, and et cetera, but I don't necessarily want a guy like Mitch Marner to be physical. Would love if he did show up in the playoffs a little bit more, but I think he shows up like... Mitch Marner is an interesting player because I feel like he's one of those guys that people love to talk about he always disappears in the playoffs, right? You never see him in the playoffs. In the playoffs so far in his career, he had 3 points in 7 games last season. The season before that, he had 14 points in 11, 8 in 7, 4 in 7, 4 in 5, 4 in 7, 9 in 7, 4 in 6. Those are his. He's been in the playoffs 8 years running, if you count that play-in series, which I don't. He's got 50 points in 57 playoff games right now. To me, that's never shows up in the playoffs. Would they like to get a little more out of him? Probably. He's a little bit, he's not as productive in the playoffs as he is in the regular season, but he still does fine. Like, this weird narrative about him not being a playoff performer, like, I don't buy it. And obviously he's money in the regular season. He's about to hit 100 points. He's got 97 points in 77 games so far this season. I believe that'll be his first 100-point season. Yeah, he hit 99 a couple of seasons ago, 97. He had 94 points in his third season with the Leafs. Like, he's got 736 points in 653 regular season games. He is a playmaker. He is extremely good defensively. You staple him to Adam Fantilli, and you watch that duo go, right? To me, that's the easy one. And I think a lot of people are, yes, go and get Marner. Is Marner the most likely? Probably Marner is the most unlikely of the three, but he's also the best of the three. So, like, if I'm Don Waddell, I start at Marner, and if that doesn't work, I flip. I go after Boeser. I go after potentially Sam Bennett, who is, like, the least good of those options, in my opinion, and will probably be more overpaid than a guy like Boeser, who I feel like his value is low at the minute. He's got 49 points in 71 games this season, 433 and 550 overall, but is still, he had 40 goals last season. He's got 25 goals this season, which is a down year for him and would be second on the Blue Jackets, right? Like, I would take him easily. Marner is obviously my number one choice, and I think a lot of people's number one choice. Boeser, I think, will fit into the Blue Jackets system slightly better than Marner, but I think Marner has the skill to override any kind of systematic inconsistencies, or not inconsistencies, but like differences, let's say. And he'll adjust, right? But Boeser, I think, would fit in perfectly. I think he's going to be cheaper than Marner, which is not necessarily a big problem for the Blue Jackets because, again, they have $1 bajillion in cap space. And I think he would fit in well with Fantilli as well. Like, and that's kind of what the offseason's about for me, is you find Fantilli a winger. potentially a second winger. I like him and Johnson a lot. I don't know if that's permanent. Like, I like Johnson, Monahan, Marchenko as a line. In a perfect world, at some point, Gavin Brindley will arrive, and then all you have to do is find a second winger for Adam Fantilli. And if that second winger can be Mitch Marner or Brock Boeser, then great. The third guy that came up, a couple of people mentioned him. I think one person mentioned him, and then a couple of other people were like, hey, what if we... Yes, I agree, that guy. Sam Bennett has been very good for the Florida Panthers recently. Like, he was okay for Calgary, and then again came to the Florida Panthers and really kind of found his niche there. He feels like a guy that is probably going to get priced out of the Panthers, depending on how how it goes in the playoffs for them. How Sam Bennett does in the playoffs specifically, but he's got back-to-back 20-goal seasons. He's got 50 points for the Panthers this season, 25 goals, 25 assists. Is not going to be as much of a difference maker as Boeser or Marner, but will probably could be had at a slightly better price tag. I don't know what's going to happen with Boeser again, because his value is like in the tank right now, thanks to basically everyone in the Canucks front office who have decided to sell Boeser up the river for no reason that I can see. But Sam Bennett right now is earning $4.425 million on his last year of his contract. Obviously, the Panthers have not a lot of cap hit right now. Obviously, Brady and Seth Jones for next season is going to make it tough. They'll lose Ekblad. They will probably lose. I'll probably lose Brad Marchand as well. So there's $10-ish million that they'll get back. And they've got Kachuk signed up long term already. They've got Barkov signed up long term. They've got Reinhardt signed long term. Forsling long term. Like, they don't have to worry about a ton. Goaltending is going to get interesting in a couple of years. Sergei Bobrovsky is about to be a UFA at the end of next season, so they'll figure out what's going on there, obviously. But Sam Bennett feels like he might be on his way out of Florida. Again, depends on how the Panthers do in the playoffs and how he specifically does in the playoffs. My guess is that if they can afford to keep him, they will. Probably they will keep him over Aaron Ekblad, but he's a guy that he will not have the impact that Marner and Boeser will have, but he could potentially be an option for the Blue Jackets. He is my least favorite of those three options by far. But if you can't go out and get Marner and Boeser, then I guess a consolation prize of another 20-goal scorer is not like the worst thing in the world. He's also like not that old, I want to say. I could be wrong about that. But he is, he's only 28 years old. He was the 2014 draft. So again, that exact age for a long-term contract that probably looks okay for a couple of years. But we'll see. I don't love that as an option, but if Don Waddell can get it done for, not that much more than what he's making right now, I would be pretty pleased with that. But my top choice, and I think most people's top choice, is still Mitch Marner, with Brock Boeser as a very, very good consolation prize, right? Interesting to get people's thoughts on this. Obviously, I hadn't considered Sam Bennett until someone brought him up. I hadn't considered Matt Duchene until someone brought him up. Let's do the same thing tomorrow, but let's talk about defensemen. So I'll throw up another poll on Twitter and over on YouTube, and we'll talk about which defenseman would you rather GM Dowadell go after this summer. And presumably some people will still tell me that they should go after goaltending or forwards, because that's how the internet works. But we'll also talk about tonight's game. The good, the bad, and the ugly, you know how it goes. Thank you for listening. Make it your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOB FORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter. That's where you find the poll for which defenseman would you rather the Blue Jackets signed in the summer. And thanks for listening once again. Appreciate y'all. Until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.